things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucks. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Recher podcast. Happy Monday, March 24th, 2025. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. I was off Friday, enjoyed some time at the Valspar with the folks. I was there Friday. I was there Sunday. Yes, I got a lot of sun. That's what we do here in the Tampa Bay area. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at Recher, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Some great content from over the weekend, including all 78 golfers that golfed yesterday in the final round of the Valspar. Which one had the best fit? Which one had the best outfit of the day? I went with Thorbjorn Olesen and Danny Willett. Those are the two guys that I voted for, but it's up right now on YouTube. It's up right now on Instagram and Twitter. So go check it out right there and let me know who you think had the best fit. Again, 78 different players yesterday, culminating in a win by Viktor Hovland. What a great weekend there at the Innisbrook Resort, the Copperhead course. Unbelievable. We'll talk about that a little bit later on today. Plenty to get into, a lot of wins around Team Tampa Bay. Unfortunately, the Tampa Bay Lightning really aren't one of those teams right now. We're going to break that down in the 1 o'clock hour. Cause for concern or not that big of a deal? We'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. Rays opening day coming up. We'll have Andy Freed joining us at 12:10 today, previewing opening day. A little bit of an injury scare there with Shane McClanahan going out. As soon as you see a pitcher grab his arm like that, we've almost been preconditioned to think of the worst, right? We start, oh my gosh, it's going to be out for the year, right? It's very rare that a guy does that, and it's not as bad as you think. Luckily, it's nerve damage for Shane O'Mac. He's going to be back, sooner rather than later. But a clap of the hands for our guy, Ryan Pepio, getting the nod for the opening day starter coming up this week, this Friday, against the Colorado Rockies. I cannot wait for baseball season. It's going to be a unique year altogether. I know we've spoken a lot about this, and I was having this conversation with my dad because, he doesn't live here. So he wanted to know kind of the background of the stadium series or the stadium saga rather. And I've just been talking about this story so much, and we've had so many different people on the show, whether it was a Colleen Wright or whether it was a Chris Lavala or just so many different people, our guy Evan Klosky. But now going forward, we got to focus on the baseball. Let's focus on the baseball. Let's focus on the positivity, the uniquity of this season. And again, regardless of what's going on with the stadium, the players and the coaches have nothing to do with that. So let's put our full force behind the guys. Kevin Cash, just look at this roster. It's very exciting to see this pitching staff. And again, Shane, it's, best case scenario, which is good. But there's plenty of other good arms. There were 6 guys for 5 spots in the rotation. You look at that bullpen, that one pitch. One of the best posts on social media over the weekend was something from Mason Montgomery, and he threw that ball 100 miles an hour, and somebody said it sounded like a shotgun. And it was just, you heard it, and I was like, I had my volume down low, and I go, does it really sound like a shotgun? I thought somebody was, was it hyperbole? Was somebody exaggerating? When I turned up the volume all the way, it did sound like a freaking shotgun. So he's one of those guys out of the bullpen that really excite me. And, with the lineup, guys being able to hit, Curtis Mead really rising to the occasion as well and earning that spot. I like where they're at. And sometimes the Rays play better like this with their backs against the wall. Nobody believes that they're going to be able to do anything in the division. I know usually it's more years like that than not, but there's just something about baseball. There's something about this week leading up to it that really excites me. And I know there's a lot of fans in the Bay Area that feel the same way. So Andy Fried will join us here in a couple minutes. We also have Ian Beckles joining us at 12:30, talking about Buccaneer quarterbacks, new and old. Got to get some NFL talk in there. And then Chris Harry's going to join us from FloridaGators.com. The Gators advanced to the Sweet 16. March Madness, a lot of chalk, not too many upsets, not too many Cinderella stories. I feel like in sports, we tend to overreact to yearly events that have just kind of one set of standard on that year, where you look at it and you go, all right, well, there's no big time upsets, no Cinderella, no 14 seed that's advancing to the Sweet 16 and beyond. That doesn't mean it's going to end. It doesn't mean everything is going to change, and you're never going to see a George Mason, or you're never going to see Florida Atlantic or some of these other teams we've seen in the last 10, 15 years make a run. College basketball, it's funky, and there is going to be a learning process and a learning curve when it comes to the transfer portal, when it comes to the NIL deals. But in no form or fashion do I think that Cinderella is dead, nor do I think it's dying. I think this is just one of those years. Some years it's a little more chalk than others, and I think you get that in every sport. Some years in hockey, it's all right, the number one seed all the way across, and sometimes you get that 8 seed that surprises somebody, right? Sometimes in baseball, it's, the best teams. I mean, the Yankees and the Dodgers were in the World Series last year, right? Other years, you get, wild card teams. You get a hot pitcher where he's the first guy, and all of a sudden he kind of controls the road for his team and sets them on a path to success that nobody saw coming. So that stuff is up and down. I don't, I'm not really looking at it as, oh man, college hoops is done and it's, we're not going to see Cinderella stories anymore. I really don't believe that at all. USF basketball has yet to name a men's basketball coach yet. I know our buddy Rich Hollenberg from FanDuel Sports Race said last week when I was at Amalie Arena that he thought that Tom Green would be a good fit there at the University of South Florida, kind of as a torchbearer, a caretaker for his protege or former protege, Amir Abdur-Rahim. I love it. I just, if you're going to hire a new coach, and we got to trust Michael Kelly throughout this entire process, you need a head coach, not an assistant that is moving from one chair to the next. We saw how that process really unfolded with Amir. You need a guy that knows what it takes to run an entire program, not a guy that's going to be encountering some jobs day to day that he's not used to. Because we know nowadays with the NIL and with the transfer portal, it's more than just the X's and O's. It's more about what you're doing on game day. It's player management. It's man management. It's knowing what's going on between these guys' ears. Are they thinking about moving on to greener pastures? How much money can you pay a guy? And I know that there are people out there. Again, I was having this conversation with my dad the other day. It's a different ball of wax when it comes to collegiate athletics. It really is. But for all the people that said some of these older coaches were going to go by the wayside, I mean, just look at who is able to kind of advance and look at some of the big names that we see. You see the Izzos of the world and Patino and Calipari, right? It's just for all those, these older guys aren't going to be able to adapt to the ever-changing landscape of college sports. I mean, they're still there and they're still doing a really good thing. And even though St. John's lost, I mean, they were the number 2 seed, and Rick Pitino brought them a Big East championship for the first time in 25 years. Coach Cal goes from Kentucky to Arkansas. People think you're freaking nuts. And now he's in the Sweet 16 after beating St. John's. So, a great coach is a great coach, regardless of what era it is, whatever era they're in. And I know it has scared some coaches away. Nick Saban has been on the record mentioning that, saying, I don't know if I want to deal with all that. And you don't blame the guy. But one thing that makes players great, one thing that makes general managers great and coaches great is the ability to adapt to an ever-changing landscape. And you could say whatever you want about off the court, off the field, off the ice. A lot of times the product on the court, on the field, on the ice is the same. It's still balls and strikes. It's still fastball changeup, right? Regardless of what's going on. It's still, play good defense and rebound in basketball. In hockey, it's about making the smart play, staying out of the penalty box, being tough, playing physical, and, just making sure that you embrace the grind. So a lot of things do change in sports on a daily basis, on a yearly basis. And from, I'll be 40 in a month and a half. A lot has changed in my lifetime, and it's going to change even more. but the basic principles and the foundation of what leads to success stays the same. And it's good leadership, it's toughness, it's determination, and it's just relentless. Just want to be the best every single day. He's one of the best, if not the best. It's our guy, Andy Freed, Ray's radio voice. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hello, Jay. How are you?
I'm great, man. Super excited. First off, thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited about this. So it's such a unique baseball season. As we're inching closer, just days away. I mean, what are your thought process on going to it? First off, different home outside there at Steinbrenner Field. Like this is going to be a season for the ages, no doubt.
It's going to be one to be remembered, hopefully for the right things. But in terms of the venue, I mean, I know that there have been a lot of times over the last 20 years that I've left Tropicana Field in April and May thinking, it would have been nice to be outside before things really kick into Florida summer. So we're going to get a chance to do it. Baseball under the stars. Fans around here have never really gotten a chance to do that for Major League Baseball. As a 2-year alum of the Florida State League, I can tell you that the early season months are really nice. And baseball is pretty pure out there, and the fans are going to be very, very close to the action. So, there's going to be fireworks. We've never really had fireworks at Tropicana Field. There can be things like a flyover on opening day, which I've heard is a possibility. So, what can you do? We all would like to be at Tropicana Field. When I drive by it every day, as I know we all do, it sits out there right off 275, and it's a bit of a gut punch every time I drive by it. It hurts. And that's been my home for the last 20 years. And it's been Rays fans' home for the last 28 years. So we'd like to be there. It's an impossibility. The next best option was the next biggest park, and that is Steinbrenner Field. So I tip my cap to the Yankees for helping to make this happen. And I tip my cap to the Rays front office for figuring out a way to make this happen. And whether it's in St. Pete or Tampa, it is Tampa Bay's team, and it's been that way since the beginning. And I look forward to it. What else are we going to do?
I know exactly. You got to make the best of a unique and in a weird situation. I actually took my parents that are in town over on 275 the other day just to look at Tropicana Field, and you never get used to it. Just being able to see and not see the roof there, and even the sign outside it. I mean, it still says Bally out there instead of Fando, which is kind of weird. And you're just hoping like, all right, we want to get back here. Let's just get back here eventually. But now, if there's one team out there, Andy, that can deal with just the uncertainty of anything, right? It's the Rays. Like, there's other teams that it may cripple them and it may add more questions and add some unnecessary fuel to a fire that could burn up their season. But I feel like this team is equipped for anything, right? So, I mean, going into this season, I know it's going to be unique for everybody around here, but I think if there's one club that can assimilate themselves to a situation like this, it would be the Rays.
Well, I would absolutely agree with that. I think one advantage that ends up happening that probably hasn't been talked about enough is, for all the sentimentality I'm hearing about the Trop, which I'm like, where has this been for the last, 20 years?
Right.
It is a turf field, and there's always that notion of you got to give guys enough off days during long homestands because their joints and their knees and everything kind of gets banged up. Their backs can get banged up a little bit more. They're not going to have that anymore. They're going to be playing on natural grass. So I think that's really a plus that over the long haul this year could be a very good thing. I like the fact that the Rays are going to get a chance to play there a couple of times this week, and an inter-squad game on Wednesday, and then an optional workout on Thursday before it counts on Friday. Once you get on the field, it really is the same game of baseball. Yeah, the dimensions are a little shorter and right, which one would think would help the left-handed hitters. Or yesterday, as we saw Junior Caminero launch one like it was a Super Bowl off his bat to the opposite field. But for the pitchers, it's a short right field there also. So they probably got to be a little bit more fine in those fly balls to right. It's a smaller outfield there, but it's still big in left and left center and center. So the field itself will ultimately, it's really the same game. I think the Rays are more than prepared for it because they've had time to prepare for it. I also think that when you're in baseball and you go through things as a team, as a unit, they can be galvanizing. And I think for this Rays team, there always is the world's kind of a little bit against you. And, the Yankee fans and the Red Sox fans are always going to be insulting you. And they're going to pretend that it's their ballpark south or whatever, which it's not. But okay. I think this helps bring the group together, and it's a young group. So, they've all played in minor league stadiums recently. I think there will be a lot of intensity there because you got 11,000 people right on you. To me, I only see the positive at this point. We'll see how it plays out. When the weather starts to kick in, we'll see. But a lot of the time in those months, the Rays are going to be on the road. They were able to front load the schedule and switch some series around with other teams. So the Rays are home a lot in April and May when it's still nice. And then when June, July, August, September come, they're mostly going to be on the road.
Yeah, and I love what you said about Junior there, because I remember some of the better lineups that we saw about 10, 15 years ago with B.J. Upton, Evan Longoria. They had some big-time success at Yankee Stadium, that opposite field home run that we saw so many times where, it can hurt you, as you just alluded to, but you can take advantage of it too. And now being prone, it's not like you're going and playing in a ballpark where you have no idea about the dimensions. I mean, this is a team that's in your division, so that can be something you can certainly take advantage of. The Rays escaped one, it seems like, Andy, because when you see a pitcher grab his arm like that, and knowing Shane for, even dating back to his USF days, how much that dude loves to grab the ball and toe the rubber every fifth day. And he grabbed me 2 years. He grabbed me right after the injury. I'm coming back next year, Jay. Let everybody know. And he didn't come back, but that's him. Like, he wanted to pitch so freaking bad last season. When he grabbed his arm, I just like it was the buzz. It was the buzz. Everybody was so concerned. Very few times do you ever get the news that we got that it's going to be a nerve irritation and he's not going to be out for as long as we initially thought. But just take me through your thought process when you saw that, when you heard that, and then when we got the news that it wasn't as bad as originally expected.
It was a bit of a crazy play because a lot happened on the play. Christian Campbell was the hitter and he swung and foul tip one and knocked the umpire down. Mm-hmm. So my first thought was at the umpire, and then I saw Christian Campbell staring at McClanahan, which made me wonder, that was kind of weird, which leads me to believe that Shane probably shouted, ouch, or something a little more peppery, which would be understandable in that situation. And the way he came down the mound so quickly, I thought, okay, but he didn't quite leave the field yet. So Kyle Snyder went out and met him halfway between the dugout and the first base line. And I thought, oh, well, maybe they're kind of using this as an opportunity while the umpire recovers to have a little free chat. But then when he made a beeline into the dugout, and then quickly when Joe Benj came back, the head athletic trainer for the Rays, came back from the umpire, and they made a quick line for the clubhouse, you thought, oh, great. It's been really a very, very good spring training, health-wise for the Rays. This time a year ago, they were dealing with Josh Lowe's injury and Jonathan Aranda's injury and Taj Bradley's injury. Knock on wood, I'm knocking on my desk here at home. It's been a pretty healthy spring training. And for a lot of guys coming back, it always makes you wonder. But to me, this, and I'm certainly no Dr. J, but I've often felt this, even if you hadn't had your elbow cut open for the second time and had to do all that rehab, you haven't pitched for a while. Right. So the rest of the arm has to make up for some sort of, stress that it's being put under. So if it's just a nerve irritation, that's okay. Sometimes too, and it did make me think of this, the end of spring training in 2007, you can have a very scary injury at the end, and sometimes that can mean an opportunity for someone else. Now, that's not going to happen here to Shane, thankfully, but my mind did go to the end of spring training 2007. The last game that the Rays played in that spring training before opening day was in Sarasota at Ed Smith Stadium, and Greg Norton, who was going to be the everyday first baseman for the Rays, hit a little ground ball towards first, and as he got to the bag, he grabbed his hamstring, and his hamstring was pulled. Carlos Pena, and you may know the story, had already been told he was not making the club. He was driving to Orlando and had just agreed that he would go to Durham. And Neil told me that. I didn't know this part till this year. Neil told me that because Neil was the voice of the Durham Bulls at the time, that Carlos had accepted the and players don't have to. They can just opt for free agency. Right. He had accepted the assignment. Next thing you know, Norton's hamstring goes, and Greg Norton's hamstring should hang at Tropicana Field Hall of Fame because, as we know, Carlos Pena then put together the greatest offensive season a Ray has ever had, 46 homers and 121 runs batted in. So even if Shane doesn't start the year with the group, it sure sounds like they've dodged a bullet, and maybe it's a little bit more of an opportunity for someone else to be on the club, not in a starting capacity, but it opens a roster spot up for someone else. And ultimately it could be a good thing because Shane's innings, I would think, would be somewhat limited anyway. So maybe in the second half of the year, this could be better, but it sure sounds like it's even better than that. It may only be a few weeks.
How cool is it too, Andy? I mean, we've come to know the guy really in his short time here, but to get Ryan Pepio that nod, I mean, that's a big deal for him. He's such a great person, regardless of how tough he is. He's a bulldog, man, and I told him that to his face. I say, "Bro, you're a bulldog. You're a throwback. You're a Greg Maddox 1990s. Like you're sweating, your face is beat red. Like he's gonna be a guy that really, the elements for him are gonna be. You're gonna see Ryan Pepio. He wears his heart on his sleeve. I think it's such a cool thing that he gets the nod.
We saw yesterday, even in just those 2 innings, that he faced the Yankees, and he was facing many of the A lineup for the Yankees. Fastball, changeup. That changeup, like Brian Anderson was talking about on TV yesterday, when he gets on top of it, that thing has some devastating movement. When it comes down a little bit off to the side, it's a little more flat. But when he's got his fastball changeup going, man, he's a really, really good pitcher. And it may not be like the old school, the ace definitely goes. He's one of 5 now, well, of course, 6 really, really good starters for the Rays. I think any of them could have started. It just turned out that it was his day to pitch. That being said, he's earned it. He's a very good young pitcher. And at the same time, that does mean when you look forward a month or so, that when you start on opening day, and opening day is a day of aces around Major League Baseball, he's going to be facing quite often the best of the other teams. So that'll be interesting as it goes forward. That's the plus and minus of starting on opening day. You get the honor, but then you're usually lined up with other Cy Young types around the league as the month goes on.
Yeah, no doubt. And let's look at some of the position players. Anybody out there, any surprises to you? Any guys? I mean, I mentioned Curtis Mead a little bit before, but I mean, not too many surprises. We're not looking at a big time roster turnover offensively. And Andy, when I look at the team this year, I just look at guys that, all right, when outside of a guy like Junior, where you're like, all right, you're just looking for the next step, but you're just looking for guys to kind of, all right, hey man, you're going to get an opportunity. The team believes in you, like a Josh Lowe, like an Aranda, like a Brandon Lau, like a Yandy Diaz. Like, go out there and just do your thing, play the game. And I feel like with that support, stress-free for the most part, I'm excited to see what this offensive, lineup, or what this lineup can do, because, I don't know if we've ever seen in the last couple of years, outside of the year they had that strong start, 13-0, guys all firing on cylinders at the same time. Because last year it was a little bit of a stop and go, and Yandy and Randy really didn't start strong. But if they start well this year, I think the sky's the limit for this offense.
You bring up 2023, and of course, everything went right there in the first 2 weeks of the season. That team scored over 800 runs, which is a lot of runs for a Rays team, because you look back to when the Rays became the Rays and were suddenly contenders. The axe to grind for this team, or the cross to bear, I should say, probably as a better cliche, is scoring enough runs. They've been able to pitch it and they've been able to catch it, but can they score enough runs? And you see the difference in the last 2 years. They may have overachieved a little bit offensively 2 years ago and won 99 games. They without a doubt underachieved offensively last year when they scored only about 600 runs. That's a massive drop-off from 800 plus to 600 plus. And there's your difference between a 99 win team and an 80 win team. So this is the season of if, right? If. If that team can maybe split the difference and get to about a league average offense and get into that 700 run thing, don't have to be as great as they were in 23, but certainly need to be better than they were offensively last year, which really, when you look at it, of all the 27 prior Rays teams, last year's team was the worst offensive team we've had. I could never have predicted that would happen, especially after the big year offensively in 23. So, yeah, they need to get off to a good start, probably because they have all those games at home, and you'd like to win those. Right away you've got Colorado and Pittsburgh. Sometimes it scares me to play the bottom-ranked teams early, because I don't think they know that they're not that good yet. Right. I think that can be a pitfall. But as that happens, and those teams have talent, don't get me wrong, but this team has to score runs. To me, the two most important offensive players for the year, on which the season may turn, are the right fielder and the left fielder. If Josh Lowe has a good year, if Christopher Morel has a good year offensively, then I think the Rays could really take off offensively, because you can't put it all on Aranda and Caminero. Those are young guys trying to figure it out in the big leagues. Of course, they need to have good years from Yandy and Brandon Lau. That goes without saying. You'd like to see Danny Jansen hit the way we know he is capable of. And then outside of that, whatever you get is probably gravy. But if Morel and Lowe have good years, And I'll throw DeLuca in there too. If DeLuca can recognize being a gap-to-gap line drive hitter, then this offense could really be something pretty special. And let's not forget, sometime around May, Ha-Seong Kim, who is the Rays' biggest splash, along with Jansen in the offseason, joins the club, and he's a pretty darn good hitter too and has speed. Then that's the recipe. Can they make it happen? We're going to find out starting Friday.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what Kim brings to the table too, because we know he can certainly pick it in the field too. So he's a Rays guy through and through for sure. What about these young players, Andy? Before I let you go, I want to ask you about some of these young guys, and whether it's Chandler Simpsons of the world, or the Carson Williams, or the trademark, like these guys in spring training were opening eyes. People were talking a lot about these young players, and I always like to hear stuff like that when it's not just Tampa driven media. Like that was national driven media. There was people on MLB Network. There was people on social media like, oh, the Rays. And for a long time, people know how good the Rays farm system is and how well they draft and develop guys. But that was a prevalent conversation all spring. How exciting was it to be able to watch those guys do your thing? And if you had to guess, who would be the first guy that we would see come up? And do we have any idea when that could be? Is it injury related, or is it just kind of development related and maybe something in the middle of the season?
Well, that was my favorite part of spring training, and I kind of felt it going in. I wanted to see Xavier Isaac and Trey Morgan and Chandler Simpson and Carson Williams and some of those younger pitchers that we saw. Trevor Martin close out the game yesterday against the Yankees looking fantastic, and I know there's other ones also. But to me, and this is just me speaking, because I spent 11 years in the minor leagues, and I think you almost never err in keeping a guy in the minor leagues a little bit longer. You almost always err in rushing into the major leagues. The Rays are pretty set with their positional player roster. Isaac was hurt a bit during spring training. Morgan, we saw some flashes. Williams looked pretty darn good. Simpson, to me, could be a bit of a game changer. But where's the fit? Let's not forget also, Eloy Jimenez is accepting his role to go to the minor leagues now, and that's not to be underappreciated, because that's a big league hitter. That's a guy that has a pretty good pedigree when he's healthy of being a good hitter, and Meade ended up beating him out. But I credit Eloy for doing that. I would think that Eloy would be the first guy called up, depending on the situation and if an injury calls for it or underperformance somewhere else or whatever. I don't know. But to me, of the four young guys that we mentioned, I think the guy that could probably have the quickest impact would be Chandler Simpson, because his speed is just so much fun to watch. I feel like I'm watching Carl Crawford again. Any ground ball to the left side, he may very well just beat it out on a routine play. Really good contact skills, but he's probably got to get a little bit better defensively. We saw some good things in the spring. I don't think he needs to get a lot better defensively. I just think he needs to get a little bit better defensively. So if DeLuca can do what he normally does, I don't know if there's really a spot for Chandler or really any of them right now. The Rays at shortstop, let's let Carson Williams develop. Let's not push him. We've got Taylor Walls, and we've got Jose Caballero, and we've got Ha-Seong Kim coming back at shortstop. Williams clearly is the shortstop of the future for the Rays. Unless the other fella comes back, and who knows what's ever going to happen with that. But that being said, Carson Williams certainly looks like the guy that's going to be there at some point. But I always lean towards leaving guys in the minor, not leaving them, let them develop in the minor leagues a little bit more too. Let's not push them too fast. This is a really tough league. Look at a guy like Jackson Holliday last year, who looked as good as any hitter in baseball in spring training. He got to the major leagues and was pretty much overwhelmed and had to go back. So when the Rays bring a guy up like that, they like to bring them up to stay. I'd like to see them be a little bit conservative with the approach. The minor leagues are there for a reason. I remember when Evan Longoria was coming up, Jay, I can remember talking to Andrew Friedman one time when Evan was still in the minor leagues, and I said, what are we waiting for with this guy? He goes, at some point we want to see him slump. How does a guy come out of a slump? Because if you never do in the minor leagues, then you get to the major leagues and suddenly you're in an 0 for 15 and the world's collapsing around you. You've never really known how to get out of it. So I like to see guys develop a little bit longer, and it's really not longer. They're right on schedule. They're right where they need to be. Let's let them develop the way a player should be developed. So when they do come here, that next wave of Rays baseball, I really do think could be very, very special.
100%. Man, it's been great catching up with the great Andy Freed, Rays radio voice. Check out him, Neil Solondz, Chris Adams Wall. the season opener, Friday, the 28th against the Rocky at 4:10 first pitch. Of course, you can hear that on the home of Rays Baseball, 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. Andy, so grateful for your time. I was speaking about this last week of, getting into the business. Our pal Rich Hollenberg is doing a big event coming up. And when I first started doing play-by-play for USF, you and Dave Wills were so gracious to be able to sit down with me at dining and to give me some pointers. And it's something I don't ever forget. So I appreciate all you've been able to do for me over the years. And again, your time today, and can't wait to hear you on the radio again on DAE calling games for our Tampa Bay Rays. Friday, I'll be here before you know it. Thank you, my friend. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks for the kind words. Same to you. Keep doing your thing, man. We'll catch up again.
Thank you, pal. Andy Freed. Can't beat him, man. Love it. Such a wealth of knowledge. We are so blessed to have so many fantastic broadcasters here in the Tampa Bay area. But baseball's different, man. Baseball's in my blood. I mean, I got baseballs everywhere. My dad was a coach. My grandfather was a coach. Just being on the field, being Rays games, USF, UT, high school games, Little League games, travel ball. Like, Florida's baseball, man. It really is. And we are so lucky to have guys like that. Yes, and I know we do miss our pal Dave Wills every day. But the job that Andy Freed and Neil Solon's doing, Chris Adams-Wall, what a great addition to the team that he has been. Yeah, it's been great stuff. Our guy Ian Beckles is usually on time. We ready? We ready for you, bruh? Come on, bruh. My guy Beck. Big Beck. Big Beck. Beck. Where you at, Ian Beckles? We'll have Chris Harry joining us at 1 o'clock today. We also have Xavier Scruggs is going to join us on the program tomorrow. So MLB Network, ESPN baseball analyst is going to join us on the program mañana to preview the upcoming 2025 MLB season. Cannot wait, man. Cannot wait. Also seeing a couple of different things as well. Kobe Knox has joined Jaden Reed and CJ Brown from USF. They are entering into the transfer portal. We're going to see a lot of this. We're going to see a lot of this. This USF team is going to look completely different next season. Completely. I'd be very surprised if there was any holdovers. I think you're going to see a completely different team, completely different coaching staff. Shout out to my guy Ben Fletcher, man. What an incredible job that he was able to do. I mean, look at how teams play across the country, and they just absolutely melt and they crumble, and they don't win nearly as many games as USF did this year. They showed a lot of heart, a lot of energy. Just imagine, man, it was tough for the adults to deal with what happened to Amir. And we're looking at kids, man. We're looking at college kids 18 to 22. They had to deal with that kind of stuff. And, yeah, not an enviable position, but they hung tough. And I spoke to somebody at USF last week, and they said that how proud they were of the Bulls because of how they represented the university and how they didn't back down and they didn't give in. They fought to the very end. So shout out to the USF men's basketball team, and excited to see what the future holds, man, with the new coach and a host of new players. Ian's getting the camera ready, and when he gets that camera ready, he's got is that dinosaur hoodie? My man's always ready. He's changing positions. He's going to a different room. When he's ready, we'll get things going. He's laughing because he's trying to find someplace nice. Yeah, he's just gonna go to the chair. I knew it. Just go to the chair, buddy.
There we go.
Bring him in. Ian Beckles. Now you just gotta flip the camera sideways.
There we go.
We're cooking with peanut oil now, buddy.
Here we go. What's up, man?
Nothing much. What do you got? A dinosaur hoodie on?
Yeah, dinosaur. Yeah.
Nice, man.
What? You don't?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
You believe in dinosaurs?
I haven't seen any in the last little bit, but I mean, I've seen some dinosaur bones, though.
You're like Carl Everett, right? You're not believing in dinosaurs?
No, I'm not like Carl Everett. Thank you for asking.
Our buddy Carl Everett. You remember the time he came over to me and he was like put me in a headlock when we were doing that golf tournament with Ron that one time? I mean, it was saucy.
It's all good.
He's a dude, man. We love Carl. Carl's the best. Parents, thank you for hosting us. Parents said they were very happy to see you. Grandma is the same way. So glad to bring them over there to the Dignitary Cafe. And again, we tell everybody out there tuning in today, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard, the best kava and kratom around. Go check out the Dignitary Cafe.
It was good to see your parents. They look very healthy.
Yeah.
I think they like Florida.
They do. They do. I'm telling you, if they didn't have 6 grandkids and my
Right?
grandma still putting around, I think they'd be down here in a heartbeat, no doubt. We got a lot of sun at the Valspar this weekend, man. It was nice. It was nice
Good
to be
stuff.
out there. Want to talk some football with you. First off, Jameis Winston. Giants signed Jameis Winston on a 2-year deal. We kind of went through the ranking last week of Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Jameis Winston, but I at the very least, it's going to be entertaining. We know it's not a long-term save for the Giants, but I
Mhm.
think at the very least, you're not gonna get the drama. Like you're gonna get a guy, because one thing we've never heard about Jameis, like all of his teammates love him, all of them. Like even the Bucks guys, like through all his good and all his bad, like the Buccaneers loved him. All the guys in Cleveland loved him. Like the guys in New Orleans loved him. So I don't. I think the Giants could do a lot worse than Jameis Winston.
I agree. I think we asked the question, would you rather Jameis or Aaron Rodgers? I picked Jameis because of the entertainment factor. I don't think the Giants scored the playoffs with anybody. Okay,
No, yeah.
I don't. Jameis Winston, I really like as a person. I don't think I've ever met anybody who doesn't like Jameis Winston as a
Right.
person. But if you're gonna ask me if Jameis Winston is gonna take my team to the playoffs, then I would say, yeah, no, it's not gonna happen.
No.
So once again, it's going to be an interesting year. But I know, and everybody who's ever watched Jameis Winston knows there are going to be some peculiar ups and downs. And the
Mhm.
ups and downs are going to be weekly, daily, monthly, yearly. His life is up and down. To throw 30 touchdowns is amazing. Very few can. And there's also very few that can throw 30 interceptions. So he's definitely an anomaly.
So, do you think that's going to preclude them from taking a quarterback with that third pick? Some people will say, "All right, well, now you got James. Maybe you take Travis Hunter. If Abdul Carter's there, maybe you take." I don't think you take Carter because you have Thibodeau, you have Brian Burns, you have Dexter Lawrence. I don't think you take him. But if you take Jameis Winston, would you still keep that door open to take Shador Sanders or Cam Ward?
I don't think Jameis Winston is that guy to stop you from taking anybody.
All right.
I don't think he's at that point in his career. He's not the kind of guy. Well, once again, we're pretty deep into free agency, and a lot of the people being signed now aren't the ones that are deciding whether your team is good or not. Okay,
Right.
so if you have a guy in the third pick in the draft that's going to change your team, I don't think Jameis Winston has anything to do with that pick. Jameis Winston, it was something that had to happen. I think it was 2 years, $8 million, which, as far as quarterbacks go, is almost nothing.
Right.
So they picked Jameis Winston because we don't even know Jameis Winston is going to start this year. He just was an acquisition by the Giants, and that was it.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? We're talking about quarterbacks, and now we're hearing Cam Hayward like, Aaron Rodgers needs to start dicking around and either get here or not get here. And I know that he finally visited with them, but there was I forgot who it was today. They were on with Mike Golick and Mike Golick Jr., and they were saying about regardless of what we say about Aaron Rodgers and all the off the field stuff, there's not a lot of great quarterbacks out there. So
That's true.
people are going to continue to give Rodgers opportunities, whether that's right or wrong. Isn't that crazy though? Like for as much as people say this guy's great and this guy's not great and this guy's making all this money, Beck, you and I watch football every weekend. There's a lot of bad quarterback play out there, so you can kind of see it. I'm always with you, like man, the off the field stuff with Rodgers, the headache. You never know what you're going to go, but when you're looking at it from that aspect, there really isn't a ton of great options out there for dudes that can spin it.
Well, if you really look into, what's happening now, Russell Wilson wasn't great last year. Was he good? Yeah, you could win with Russell Wilson. You could win with him. And it comes to a point where if you're a quarterback that you could win with, you're a hot commodity because there's not many of them out. Listen, you're a Giants fan. You should know it's hard to find a quarterback that you could win with. Okay, it's been a while. The last little while, it's been hard for you guys.
Yeah.
As a Buccaneer fan, we're blessed right now because, we have no complaints about Baker. But if you look around the NFL, there's a lot of crappy quarterbacking going on. But I still, to have a quarterback is important. But let's look at Cincinnati Bengals. They got a lot of talent. But if you think they're going to win, just winning is way more than just having talent. And being a quarterback that can take your team to the playoffs and deep into the playoffs, it's deeper than just being able to spin the ball. And I know Aaron was there. I don't think he's there now. I'm not quite sure if Jameis Winston was ever there, to be honest with you.
We saw a couple of days ago that the Green Bay Packers were the team that are officially trying to ban the tush push. And we had this conversation a couple of months ago. I still think it's crazy that there's really no evidence that it has led to any kind of injuries. You just can't stop it. And I'm a little surprised that it's Green Bay out of all teams, right? And it's, you want to think AJ Dillon, who's huge himself, another huge running back. Eagles just signed him, so you don't even need Saquon out there for the tush push because you got AJ Dillon. Is it surprising that it's Green Bay? Does it not matter what team it is? But I just, there's no way you can ban this thing, because if your main argument is that, oh, it's hurting people and there's no real evidence of that, Beck, it's not going anywhere.
I don't understand the whole thing. I really don't. I don't think there's ever been a rule that it's not breaking any rules,
right?
And everybody's able to do it. It's just I can. It's kind of like the skyhook. We were talking about the skyhook the other day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why doesn't anybody shoot the skyhook? Nobody could ever stop it. I kind of tried to teach it last year at Chamberlain High School, and we did run the sneak a little bit. We ran out of shotgun. If we ran under the center, I'd run sneak all day long. It's just a hard play to stop. And when you know it's coming and they're still running, they still can't stop it, instead of crying about it, steal it and do it. And then if after a while every team is doing it and nobody can stop it, that's when they'll stop it. But when one team is doing it, I don't think it's ever going to be stopped.
Yeah, the only team that really seems to have any kind of semblance of how to stop it is the Bucs.
Exactly.
And you have a guy like Vita Vea there in the middle. Maybe that's where teams should start. And people want to get really athletic in that position. Maybe a defensive line that is very rotational. You can get guys that play on the outside, playing the inside. All right, well, that's all fine and dandy. But when you do that, then you lose. Like, yeah, you'll see Vita Vea's, lining up on the outside because Todd Bowles is a maniac. But usually that's a guy that's in the middle of your defense trying to clog everything up. And Ian, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but this is one of those scenarios where when you try to get too versatile and you try to have too many guys that can play a bunch of different positions, like sometimes the best way to stop things is just having a good foundation, like having two guys in the middle that are bigger dudes that can occupy blockers.
I mean, that's easy to say. We happen to have a big 370-pound guy who could move like a cat. It's easy for us to say it.
Right.
How many Vita Veas are in the league?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Like, if there's more, at the top of my head, the Eagles have a couple monsters in there. There's not a lot of Vita Veas. They're just not. Right. Okay, so and then if you really think about it, you're going to bring up players to stop one specific play that they may not run. Mm-hmm. Okay, you might play the Eagles and they may not run the tush push. It may not be that situation. So you can get a bunch of big grizzly bears, but if it doesn't come to that point, they're just going to be sitting on the bench looking. So those grizzly bears have to be able to play football. We just happen to have a grizzly bear that can play football.
Ian, today's Cam Wart's pro day there in Miami. Did you have a pro day at Indiana? Good question. Did you?
Hell no. There was a pro day where there was a few. Anthony Thompson was a running back at the time. He was second in the Heisman. He said, "Yo, Beck, there's 4 teams coming to work out. If you want to come work out." I went and I ran the best 40 of my life. I ran a 4.87 at that time.
Whoa, 4.87.
Yeah. But
wow.
Individuals having pro days doesn't happen, especially not offensive linemen that are drafted in the 5th round.
Well, no, I think his is the Miami pro day. I'm just saying he's throwing at it today. It's not just for him.
Okay, well, that makes sense. We had kind of a pro day like that, but they weren't there to see me. I probably elevated my status a little bit. My whole thing with pro days are they know what they want. Like, it's almost impossible for somebody to say, I want Cam Ward to be my guy, and then go there and work him out and go, oh, no, he's not the guy.
Right.
It's barely ever happened. If you watch film, if you watch 20 films on somebody, you'll be able to know they can play football or not, regardless of the workout. Because you know why? Some guys are not the best workout guys. Some guys are gamers. So it's hard for me, man. The workout is just there to show ridiculous flaws, but ridiculous flaws, well, you will see it if you play enough football, and Cam Ward has played enough football.
I feel like there's a lot of things in football that are like window dressing, right? The combine, the pro day, all these like individual workouts. What are you going to see from some of these things that you didn't see 2 years on tape, right? You're going to project a guy from what you saw, whether it was a little or a lot, and tell you whether he's going to help your team or not. I almost feel like certain people love football so much that they're just going to come up with new ways to have people put more eyeballs on it. Like, I don't know. As a pro day, like you just said, is a pro day really going to change your mind on a guy? Like, if you're going to send people there, like what you saw this entire time, he's not going to go from, oh, wow, he was 6 foot to 6'5" just because he's at a pro day, right? Like, it's weird, man.
Well, the difference between the pro days in the NFL and the pro days maybe for some other sports is we're interested. Like, I would watch the pro day. You know what I mean? I don't know if I would watch a hockey pro day or watch a baseball pro day or if that's even relevant. But football is such a relevant sport that we get excited over all the pro days. And there's probably so many pro days happening out there by lesser players that we don't know about. Once again, Ian Beckles is a lesser player. There's a lot of schools out there not quite as big as Miami, and it's not that big of a deal. But football is such a big deal that now we don't talk about baseball. We don't really talk about the free agency part of baseball. We don't really talk about the free agency part of hockey. You never stop talking about football to where even pro days become a big deal. And I'm pretty sure I don't watch ESPN much anymore, but it'll probably be on ESPN, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how that narrative has changed on ESPN, where everybody was like tuning in every morning, and I don't care what their ratings say. This people don't watch it as much as.
No
Why do you think that is? Why do you think people watch less ESPN? Is it politically driven? Is it because it's all about just BS arguments and everybody yelling at each other? What do you think? Why do you think people tune into NFL less? Because it's predominantly football talk, and it is the most popular sport in the country. But it just seems like less and less people that I know, and yourself included. I mean, there wasn't a day that I wake up that I didn't automatically put ESPN on. But now it's just like I'm only putting ESPN on for games and maybe Sports Center at night with Scott Van Pelt to see the highlights of what's going on. But very rarely am I watching it during the day unless something happens with Stephen A. and LeBron, where I was like, all right, I want to hear what Stephen A. had to say. But other than that, it's not the same for me.
Well, how many regular TV shows do you watch?
I mean, I'm a little different though. You know me. I'm a wrestling watcher. I watch wrestling. I watch Jeopardy. Yeah. I watch the games. But I mean, I know I'm not the only one though, right? Because I know, like you and I, we have our sports friends that are big into sports, and even my friends that have been in sports the whole time, they're just like, it's the same old every single morning, where it's like every story is revolving around LeBron and the Cowboys. And I get that you're able to reach people from different markets because there's a lot of overlap there, but the people that are diehards, that are big time sports fan, like it's tired. It's the same old shit every single day, it seems like.
Well, I think it's the evolution of sports. Listen, I'm an old dude. You might be old enough to remember watching Monday Night Football to get pretty much all of your football knowledge for that week, right? Now, I don't know if as many people watch Monday Night Football for their highlights because of the exposure. You used to have to watch ESPN to find out what happened. When you wake up in the morning and you open your phone and you go to social media, before you get to the fifth thing, they're going to be telling you what happened. So there's just so much knowledge out there. I'm on YouTube. Everything is in your algorithm. And ESPN, I don't even know where to find ESPN anymore, to be honest with you. I don't remember the last time I switched on ESPN because I have access to so many other things, and ESPN's not really even on the list anymore.
When's the last time you went to a game in person? Any game?
Any sporting event?
Yes. Outside of Chamberlain.
Oh, I was going to say, does Chamberlain football count?
No,
the last time I went to a sporting event.
Was it opening day of the Rays a couple years ago?
No, I've been to a hockey game since.
Oh,
I've been to a hockey game since.
when was this? Was it with the Bone guys?
At the end of last year, I went to a hockey game. I think.
Yeah.
I just don't do it anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I'm to a point. I swear to you, Jay. Like people are like, "Hey, you want to go here?" I'm like, "That sounds like fun." And as I'm saying, it sounds like fun. The little man on this side is going, "You know, you ain't going to that." I don't go to anything anymore. I'm good. I like my television. I'm good.
Yeah, we had a little get together for my birthday last year, and it was at a bar up here. And I just remember the other day, like that you and Ponzo went, and I went. That probably took a lot out of Ian to just go all the way up there. And Ponzo drove, so
Where was it?
it was in Citrus Park area.
Oh hell no! I must like you.
I was like, that's our good friend right there. I was like, Ian doesn't even like to leave. Somebody asked the other day, is Ian there? Is like, there's a really good chance that he's there. Really good chance he's there and around. What's new around the cafe right now? What do you got going on?
Cafe's good. Business is good. People are drinking on their kava and the kratom. We have a concert coming up on the 29th.
Whoa.
Space Camp. They're really a great little band, reggae band. You would like them. They're going to be playing at the cafe like 8 o'clock on a Saturday. So, we're 420 friendly in the back. We might be indulging a little bit, having a good time, listening to some reggae music and unwinding. That's what we do.
What about any other stuff? Karaoke they got? Who's the young lady that does karaoke over there?
Yeah, Fancha does karaoke. It may be this Saturday. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, I guess look at the website. I guess
the socials. I mean, I saw there was some whatchamacallit. There was a lot of people singing the other day. I saw the social media post that went out for the karaoke.
It probably was an old one that they were showing.
Oh, okay.
It's been a while.
A lot of stuff going on there at the Dignitary Cava, Dignitary Cafe. Go check them out. 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. Beckles and Recher podcast will be live again this Wednesday at 3 o'clock. So go check us out then. Beck, appreciate it, my friend. Have a great rest of your week. I'll talk to you Wednesday.
That's good to see you, brother. Deuce.
Yes, sir. One love. One and only 6'2", Ian Beckles. Look at Chris Cole, Seth freaking Rollins on Good Morning Football this morning. Yes, probably promoting WrestleMania. Yeah, so NFL Pro Days, I they make me laugh. They really make me laugh. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, what are we even talking about? Shout out to our USF women's basketball team. Unfortunately, they lost. They got smoked Friday night by Tennessee. They were balling out on the Vols. Just they continued to move the basketball. And I know I saw some sad news too. Coach Jose Fernandez, his pup that went with him, unfortunately, didn't make the trip back. Really, really sick. So, man, it was just really sad. I want to make sure that we get the right name here because, oh, my God, I couldn't. When I saw the news, I'm just like, my goodness, man. It just pales in comparison to basketball. Harley, their little pup that was able to go with them on the trip. This post, the trip to Columbus was a living nightmare. Hearts completely shattered. Harley, unfortunately, did not return home. He required emergency vet care and was diagnosed with a serious intestinal mass. Given the severity of this condition, there was a very high chance he would not survive surgery or even the trip home. 12 and a half years. So shout out to little Harley Fernandez, Coach Jose and his wife, Tanya. Like, oh, my gosh. That's just heartbreaking, man. Heartbreaking. So shout out to the entire Fernandez family. Our thoughts and prayers are with them. Speaking of NCAA hoops, man, how's your bracket looking? I picked Alabama to go all the way. So right now, we have a group with my mom, my dad. I'm in first place. Okay, let's get it. It's me, my dad, my mom, and my brother. So I'm in first place right now. You'll love to see that. But yeah, I've got Alabama going all the way. I have this matchup, Auburn and Michigan in the Sweet 16. Got that one right. I also had Ole Miss and Michigan State. All right, so that's one of my matchups. Florida and Maryland. Oh, wait, no. Oh, I had Colorado State. Who did I have there? Oh, I had Memphis winning, yeah. So my teams, my final four teams are Florida, Auburn, Alabama, and Houston. They're all still in it. I'm getting a lot of grief for not putting Duke in there, but listen, I had St. John's going all the way to the Elite Eight, and they lost. What a crazy game that was. And did you see the finish? That incredible game, Maryland over Colorado State, 72-71. Derek Queen's buzzer beater. And I know a lot of people are bitching and moaning and complaining about the travel, the walk. This is basketball. This is basketball. Like, really? Really? You see that stuff all the time. You see travels, you see carries all the time. By the letter of the law, was it a travel? Yes, I guess. But it wasn't those when I initially watched the video where I looked at it and said, oh my gosh, that's so egregious. Just because whether we're numb to it or not, I don't know. She made the shot. He made the shot. Maryland moves on. Just the way it goes. Let's see some of the other ones. I mean, we're looking at this matchup. We're seeing Kentucky against Tennessee. I mean, that matchup is going to be pretty damn cool as well. Houston and Purdue, Florida, Maryland, Texas Tech, Arkansas, Ole Miss, and Michigan State. Again, I mentioned this before. So much for Tom Izzo not knowing what's going on and not knowing how to adapt to the young game. And I think Auburn's going to beat Michigan. But how cool would it be to see in the Elite Eight Michigan and Michigan State? That would be wild. And then Duke and Arizona. Caleb Love, after helping Arizona beat Oregon 87-83. We know transfer from UNC. He does not have any love for the Duke Blue Devils. So that should be a heck of a matchup as well. These next couple of days are kind of weird. It's a little bit of a pin out of the balloon a little bit, where you're just going to exhale a little bit. Chris Harry's going to join us here to talk some Gators in a bit. But it was a wild weekend on the hardcourt, men and women. And again, for those that look at this situation as, oh, Cinderella's dead, Cinderella's dying, it's just 1 year. It's just 1 year. We still had a 12-5 upset, right? We saw that. And I don't think it's smart to overreact for one season. Just be patient. See what happens next year. But there's a lot of big names. There's a lot of blue bloods in March Madness. And Florida was in there in a battle against UConn. And to see Dan Hurley's club, really, they're obviously not as good as they were the last couple of seasons. But they hung tough. And did they expose Florida a little bit? Give everybody an idea of what it takes to beat them? We'll find out. We'll ask Chris Harry here in a couple of minutes. But I know Dan Hurley is catching a lot of grief because video has caught him as he came off the floor yelling to the Baylor Bears before their matchup against Duke. I hope they don't F you guys like they F'd us. I mean, it's the same thing we talk about when we're talking about Stu Sternberg, right? When you hear professional sports owners complaining about finances, like, nobody wants to hear that. I don't want to hear that shit. And I know everybody out there doesn't want to hear it. What I also don't want to hear is I don't want to hear one of the most successful college basketball coaches in the last decade sitting here complaining about officiating. I'm sorry, man. I don't want to hear that. You were clearly the inferior team. And it's just such a, that's not being a competitor. That's not, wow, he hates to lose more than he loves to win. Nah, man, you're coming off looking like a crybaby. So it's the referee's fault. That's the reason why you lost. You didn't just lose to a better team. You left it all on the line. And then he's upset. I've never loved the team as much as I love this one. It's like, all right, man, I get it. You care, right? You care, but it's a lot of other teams that care too. You care more than them just because you've had success. It's a weird thing with Dan Hurley. And I get it. These guys are human beings. They put their pants on one leg at a time like the rest of us, unless you're one of those weirdos that do it with, like you're putting on hockey pants or something. But to sit here and listen to this guy, complain and bitch and moan about the officiating, it's like nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say. You lost. Take your L and go home. And if you're going to win with class, you got to lose with class too. It's easy to take the high road when you're coming out on top and you're, to the victor goes the spoils and you're the winner, right? Win with class. Well, you got to lose with class then too. It's one thing to be the villain, and I think we need villains in sports because the storylines are part of it too, right? Am I going to lose my mind over Dan Hurley? No, but he has to realize that nobody's going to feel bad for him. So if you think that you're motivating anybody by saying, watch out for the referees in a lot more colorful language than I used right there, like, no, and he's still got a long way to go. He's had success. He has national championships. I get that. But he's got a long way to go before you're going to put him in that same category as John Calipari and Tom Izzo and some of these other guys. And part of the reason why, and listen, I've seen Michigan State lose tough games in March Madness. And you know what Tom Izzo does every time? He goes over to the other team and shakes their hand. And he takes time to have conversations with some of those players that he probably recruited or battled against for many years. You don't see Tom Izzo coming off the floor and start barking and yelling and crying and pissing and moaning. Like, you're telling me that guy doesn't care? Dan Hurley, knows a lot about basketball, but he's still got a lot to learn. Can't wait to see what happens next year with the Huskies. Well, let's bring him in. Chris Harry, senior writer, FloridaGators.com. We were just talking about the Gators' last opponents in March Madness. But, hey, thanks so much for joining us, Chris. Been a long admirer of your work. Thank you so much for some time today.
Thanks. That's very nice of you to say. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Before we get into the Gators, give me your thoughts on the Dan Hurley thing, because, Chris, the winners get to write history, right? You can say whatever you want, but nobody's feeling bad for Dan Hurley after the unprecedented success that they've had the last couple of years. Now you're talking about refereeing, like that's falling on deaf ears now.
Yeah, a good word I think is mercurial. Is that the
mercurial? Yeah, mercurial.
Right? Yeah. But I mean, after the game, Todd Golden said that he and Dan Hurley had a real nice conversation there at midcourt and everything. Good. Literally, it must have been like less than 2 minutes later when he had that exchange as he was leaving the floor. But I mean, the guy's nuts. I mean, obviously he's a great coach, and what he did to confuse the Gators and what he made them do defensively, it was a problem for basically 37 minutes, 36 minutes of that game yesterday. So I give him kudos for that. But the other antics, it's funny. I thought he was pretty good at the venue in his press conferences and stuff, and almost kind of showed a different, more humble side of him, certainly in the day before press conferences. But then to see him live and how he behaves on the sidelines and berates the officials, berates his assistants too. You saw that one where he just told him to shut up. And I don't know how unusual that is per se. Mm-hmm. I will say this: they offered him a lot of money to go coach the Lakers. I'd like to see him try to have that conversation with some of the guys in the NBA.
That ain't working
or something like that. Yeah.
So, that ain't working.
We don't have to worry about him this year, though, right?
You got that right.
And do three rings. He won't be doing that this year, right?
No, sir. So what was it, Chris, of being able to watch it? What was so confusing that had the Gators so flummoxed? And then what were they able to do to right the ship there and come out victorious?
Well, what basketball has evolved to this day and age, Jay, is a lot of just playmaking. UConn is one of the rare teams that actually runs a bunch of actions, designated actions with a lot of cutters, a lot of screening. And when you're a defense that likes to switch everything or 1 through 4 like Florida does, you need to be on your P's and Q's. And if you run it really, really well, you run the risk of getting beat. And that's kind of what happened. And Florida did adjust to it. They got it. They calmed down a little bit. I think it's just in talking to Walter Clayton afterward, number 1 seed pressure is different than other pressure. You feel it in the moment. And when things aren't going your way, and they weren't, and it's a 6-point game, I think it was 6 points, 5 or 6 possessions in the second half. You get a little tighter, you start thinking a little bit more, and it takes a certain kind of competitor to work yourself through that. I think Florida has those guys on this team. They don't have a lot of NCAA tournament winning pedigree, with the exception of Elijah Martin heading into this thing. But they grew up a lot yesterday. And you can go back and look at the teams that have won the national championship the last 20 years. And I guarantee almost every one of them, if not every one of them, had to have a game like that. And that's not saying that I believe Florida's going to win the national championship. They certainly can. They're certainly good enough to. But you have to be able to navigate the high-pressure moments in March, and that was the first one that they hit, because they didn't really get a lot of those in the SEC tournament on the way to their SEC tournament championship a weekend before. But that was the first one, and there's probably going to be a few more.
Yeah, take me through that SEC season for the Gators, because the one game that really sticks out to me, my dad was in town. My mom and dad were in town. We watched the game against Auburn, and it was just like man, no matter what everybody was like, watch out, this is where Florida's going to come crashing back down to reality. But Chris, it was like like two marathon runners, and they just stayed ahead of the pace the entire time. Auburn would catch up, they kept pushing ahead. It's just such a remarkable mental game that they were playing. Like, they're not going to get too down. Oh, they're going to close the gap. We're going to hit our threes. We're going to get back to rebounding and playing defense. I mean, what a crazy year for the SEC with how competitive and how many teams made the tournament, but how well that they played against some of those big teams where, I mean, you're talking about teams that were highly ranked for the entire season.
Yeah, and you got to remember that particular game, that Auburn game, Elijah Martin was a game day scratch. He didn't even play. And they go into the toughest place to play in the country. And I think that has proven out that was probably the best victory in the college basketball season. Agreed. At one point, Florida, I think, was up by 21 points in that game. They had great play off the bench from Thomas Houck, who has been phenomenal. He could have easily been the SEC Sixth Man of the Year. Denzel Aberdeen was excellent in starting that game and playing the role that he played. And I think Walter Clayton had some daggers in that one too. They weren't fazed by that. And a couple of nights later, they went to Mississippi State. It's kind of a trap game because you're coming off this big win. First time you ever beat number one on the road, and now you're going to play the number 22 team in the country on their home floor. Feeling pretty good. Chest poked out a little bit. Tie game at halftime, I think, and I think they started 17-0 run in the second half and said goodbye to the Bulldogs in that game. So the way they've handled business this year, it's been a masterful coaching job by not just Todd Golden, but his entire staff. And it's been a really fun and interesting excursion for me to see it all unfold behind the scenes, because frankly, Jay, last year and watching over the summer, you saw it happening. You saw it coming together, and you said, man, this is going to be the best team here in 10 years. It's just a matter of how they're going to kind of keep on meshing together and keep on playing together and see how they handle, because teams always look good, but once the season starts and the minutes are getting just distributed, how do guys handle that? This team has handled it really, really well, and the guys that have played maybe smaller roles, there hadn't been a whole lot of egos, and we know who the best players on the teams are, and they usually show up.
It's a great point, Chris, because I feel like you can make that case pretty much for any sport, and you can look at talent on paper, you can look at production, you can look at matchups, you can look at all these different things, but having players that know their roles within a team is one of the most understated things. And you may not know it if you have it, but you sure as hell to know when you don't have it. When you have a guy that thinks he should be a starter, but he's not. When you have a guy that's taking shots that he shouldn't be taking. When a guy thinks he's something that he's really not, and he's not putting forth the best effort to make the team really, play at its highest level. I think a lot of that does go down to coaching and communication, letting guys know this is where you're going to be. This is how you're going to contribute to the team. When did that switch for Todd Golden? Because obviously right now, I mean, he's one of the bells of the ball right now. People look at him like incredible job being able to manage all these different players to get them performing at such an elite level this entire season. When did that change? What's been just how people look at him? Because now he's probably one of the better young coaches in the game. When did that change? Because I know early on there was a little bit of a wait and see mentality. Is he going to be that guy? How is that adjusted? How has it changed? When did that kind of light go off? Like, hey, we got something special here as the head coach.
I'd say his evolution has been year to year, because the first year he comes from San Francisco, nobody even knows who he is.
Right.
I've written the longest story I've written since I've been at FloridaGators.com was a story I wrote about him, because I was fascinated. You probably know Joey Johnston. I go way back, and we dive into some of these stories. We want to talk to I talked to like 15, 18 people about Todd Golden, wrote a 4,000-word story about just trying to try to educate myself. It was probably too long for the readers, but I didn't care. But I mean, that team was 16 and 17. He lost his best player, Colin Castleton, late in the year. I think twice during that season, they took two of the worst losses in the last 25 years. I think West Virginia beat them up in Portland, and then UConn destroyed them in here in December of that year. But he was 16 and 17, but he wanted to build a roster the kind of how he constructed it out at University of San Francisco, play two bigs, have bigs who can back up, and then have 3 scoring guards on the floor at all time, guys who can handle the ball at all time. He didn't have it. He said, we're not doing this again. So he rebuilt, reshuffled to the transfer portal, asked some guys to go, hey, maybe it's better for you if you go somewhere else and play. Right. They brought in Zion Pullen and Tyrese Samuel last year. Those guys are really, really good transfer impact starters who played, but he also brought in Walter Clayton Jr. And, they basically handed the ball and gave him the freedom to do a great deal. But after last season, they didn't play any defense last year. They lost in the NCAA tournament last year, 102-100 to Colorado. At one point in that game, they gave up 11 straight field goals. He said, we're changing this. We're going to make defense as important as a priority as offense is, because I think their offense was a top 15 last year. Defense was 94th. This year, their defense is 11th. Their offense is number 2. That's why they're 32-4. Right. They assigned John Andrzejczyk, one of their assistants, to take over the defense. They carved out time every day to work on it. The Gators defensively and overall have been rewarded for it, obviously, with the production of the team and the wins. John Andrzejczyk has been rewarded for it. He was named head coach of Campbell University last week. So it's a really good staff that's been together at various places along the way. And Todd's always, from the moment he stood on the podium and took the job, he'd said, I'm going to play this way. I'm going to recruit this way. I'm going to look at my analytics, blah, blah. Everything he's done, Jay, everything he said he was going to do, he's done. Right. And, it's what he's been able to do in year 3, getting to the Sweet 16 with this particular roster. We're sitting here, we're talking. We haven't really talked that much about Walter Clayton. I'm sure you're going to ask me about him. But what a magnificent run for this team right now today.
All right, yeah, Walter Clayton Jr., that was my next question for sure. When I watch him play, I look at him and I go, ooh, you're not like the rest of the guys. Even the guys on the other team, the game against Auburn, Broom is out there, and I know people love him, big body, he does a lot of big things. I think Walter Clayton Jr., and there's certain players, and whether it's collegiate or NBA, guys get in the zone, and it's just like, that dude's going to make the shot, whatever. He's going to get to the basket. He's going to lay it in against your best defender. He's going to shoot a 3 from wherever. Like, he's just got that thing about him where it's just like, I am going to be the best player on the court. I know I'm going to be the best player on the court. Get on my back because we're going to win this game. As far as where he ranks, I know it's kind of tough before the season ends, but as far as just purely – and I don't want to take anything away from the back-to-back championship teams, but I feel like, and I could be speaking out of turn, correct me if I'm wrong, the collective was just amazing. Everybody did their part. Corey Brewer did his part with Noah and Horford and all the rest of the guys, Green and everybody. But I feel like singularly, at least in the last 20, 25 years, Walter Clayton Jr. may be the most talented guy. Am I out of turn for saying something like that? Okay.
No, you're not. And depending on what happens the next week or so with this team, people will be comparing this team to that team and everything. But there's no comparison to the fact that this program had never had a first-team consensus All-American before. Walter Clayton is the first player in Florida basketball history, remarkably, to be so acknowledged. And the thing about it is, since the time he got here, and I mentioned it before, Todd Golden has basically given him the freedom because he knows he's that talented a player. It's amazing, Jay. This guy's from Lake Wales, Florida. He wasn't recruited by anybody in the state of Florida except Jacksonville and Florida Gulf Coast. You got UCF an hour to the east and USF an hour to the west. They didn't sniff the guy. He won back-to-back state. He played at Lake Wales, transferred to Bartow, won back-to-back Class 6A state championships there, and ended up having to go to Iona to play with Rick Pitino. So he comes back home, and people know what they missed now, and what he's done. I mean, look at that in just this postseason. So since the SEC tournament last week and the 2 NCAA tournament games, 47.8% from the floor, 51.1 from 3-point line, 22 of 43, 88% at the free throw line. He's now gotten 2 years. He got 199 threes, so his next 3 will be 200. That ranks second all time in school history behind one of your 06, 07 guys, Lee Humphrey.
Yeah.
He needed 4 years. He's 236, I believe. He needed 4 years to get there. Walters needed 2 to get 200, and he's still going. So he's been spectacular. And one of the things, Billy Diamond used to say, you're an elite player. You cannot be afraid to fail. That's who the best ones are. Walter Clayton's not afraid to fail. He's taken the big shot. And in the locker room yesterday, we talked to Elijah Martin after those phenomenal, just clutch, pressure-packed threes that he made late in the game when you just had to have those baskets. And Elijah goes, some guys are built for this. He's built for this. Not a lot of people are. And I think that summed it up pretty clearly. Walter Clayton wants it on his shoulders. That doesn't mean he won't defer or maybe pitch a shot to Will Richard or to Elijah or kind of dump into Alex Condon or something. But he knew they needed him to score at that time, and he didn't have a good first half. He had a blistering second half, and it was pretty amazing watching the energy in the building when he was doing it was something to behold.
So because it feels like I think a lot of people are like it was the sexy pick for all the big names out there. Like Florida's going to be that team. It's Florida. It's Florida. It's Florida. All right. So when you look back at that UConn game, is that a blueprint for how to slow them down, or is it one of those situations where Dan Hurley, that's kind of how they roll? You can't automatically take a team that's like, all right, we're just going to run a high pick and roll stuff, kick it out to the open threes. That's all we see nowadays, right? So to all of a sudden to have a bunch of, all right, we're going to do all of this off ball screens and we're going to run the Princeton offense out of nowhere. Like teams can't do that in 3 days, right? You're either that team or you're not. So when you look at these matchups going forward, what is it going to take to beat Florida? Because I feel like if they beat what could be their toughest challenge because of how good a coach Dan Hurley is, like it's just going to take a Herculean performance from somebody else. Like I don't know if necessarily we looked at that UConn game and said that's the blueprint to beat Florida. Right. Do you agree with that?
Well, to your point, you can't change what you do.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, we're not. You're Maryland. You're not all of a sudden going to go. Maryland is an up and down, plays a lot like Florida does. That's why they're 27-8. They can't all of a sudden say, okay, we're going to try to play turtle ball and try to muck the game up in anything. No, you're not going to do that. In fact, they ended up winning at the buzzer on that McQueen shot last night by 1 point against a Colorado State team that frankly may have been a worse matchup for Florida because of the way they play slow and want to make it a defensive fest. Maryland's going to want to run. Florida wants to run all the time. So this could be an up and down affair. Maryland's a great team, man. I was looking at some of their numbers, really, really impressive. They're a good 3-point shooting team. Florida, one of the best 3-point defense team in the country. UConn I think they missed 21 threes in that game yesterday. They had some open ones too. I don't think Maryland's going to miss a bunch of open ones, but it's an interesting matchup in that it's going to be that kind of up and down affair. I think what Florida may be looking at, I'm just looking at these numbers, the KenPom numbers. Maryland has, I think, 5 players that play at least 70% of the minutes. Okay. Yeah. Florida has barely 3 that play 70% of the minutes. So depth may be a thing. Florida may want to go and pound and run and stuff and see if they can maybe do something with maybe wear them down a little bit. They've been able to do that with teams this year. They certainly were able to do it in the SEC tournament and beating 3 really good teams in about a 50-hour span. But it's going to be a challenge. The rest of there's no bad teams in the field anymore. So the blueprint, I don't think Florida's thinking so much about what the blueprint of Maryland's going to be. They're thinking about we're taking our blueprint to San Francisco and seeing what happens with it.
No doubt about it. Chris Harry, senior writer, FloridaGators.com. Go check him out on Twitter/X Gators. Chris, man, this has been such an incredible discussion. Thank you so much, Chris. It's so nice to finally get a chance to talk to you. I've heard a lot of great things from our mutual friend, Joey Johnston. I joke that he's the historian. If there's ever a book to be written about Tampa Bay sports, I told him that I would type it out for him, and he would just kind of dictate to me for however long it would take. It would probably take hours. Right. He's the main.
He and I did a Bucks history book together.
After
they won the Super Bowl. Oh yeah.
When was that?
After they won the Super Bowl.
The first
Tales
one?
Tales from the Bucks sidelines.
The first one?
The first Super Bowl. Yeah, excuse me. They have one too. Yeah.
Oh my God. I got it. Can we get it on Amazon?
Yeah, probably for like 10 cents. Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up, man. I gotta read that, man. That's good stuff. Chris, Harry, thank you so much, brother. It's been nice to catch up with you. Enjoy the ride, man. I know people focus so much on the players and the coaches and stuff like this, but the guys that write about these teams, like there's joy to it, man. There is a joy to it because we love sports, and to be able to follow the ups and the downs and the trials and tribulations, to be able to see something magical like what you're seeing right now. Definitely enjoy that yourself, my friend, because you do a heck of a job writing about it. So yeah, thank you so much, and talk to you again soon. Have a great rest of your week.
Appreciate you, Jay. Miss the hell out of Tampa. Thanks, man.
All
Thanks
right,
for having me
pal.
on.
You got it. Chris, Harry, man, unbelievable. He is all over it. I gotta go read that freaking book now, man. We love Joey Johnston here on the program. That's got to be great. You want to talk about a wealth of knowledge with those two guys together. And they're gonna have to write another book. Gators win, they're gonna write another one, man. So good stuff. You watch this Florida Gators basketball team, man. Ooh, boy. That is a rough team to go against. And listen, you could like other teams. You could, that's fine. But I like that you could possibly see that be the hardest game for Florida, right? I think that could be the most difficult because of what Dan Hurley was able to do with all of that crazy motion and, all the defensive, you have to fight through all these screens. And when you're a team like Florida, listen, if you're a team that switches 1 through 4, like Chris just said, you do that because you have belief in your players that you're going to be able to guard whoever has the basketball. You don't just switch just for the sake of switching. You're switching because you feel like some of your smaller guys, your guards, can be quick enough to guard guys that are bigger than them. And you're, and also tough and strong enough to be able to do that. But also your bigger guys, if your 4 is, and Chris just sent me the picture. This is great. It's great. I gotta check this book out, man. Here you go. Chris just sent me that if you guys could see it. Tales from the Bucs Sideline. You guys gotta go check that out. That's awesome. Very, very cool. But yeah, if you're a team that does that, if you're switching, you're also, your smaller guards, you have to be strong enough to guard the bigger guys, and your bigger guys have to be quick to guard against some of the guards. So I don't know if any other team is going to be able to go out there and do that. So with Maryland, and we know Selton Miguel, former USF Bull, on that team, I don't think they have enough. I think Florida blows them out. So, they're going to give it all they have. But with that being said, not gonna do it for me, bud. I think Florida's going to take it all the way. Who did take it all the way? Valspar Championship. Viktor Hovland won the Valspar over the weekend. What a great tournament there at Innisbrook, over there at the Copperhead course. Shout out to Tracy West and Rondé Barber and everybody involved. Rick Odioso, our good pal. What a great weekend. We were there Friday. We were there Sunday. And to be able to, we were sitting by the 8th green on Friday, and there was only 9 birdies that day. But to be able to see all those guys up close was really cool. And then we sat by 18 yesterday, and we saw all 78 players walk by. Again, I posted the video who had the best fit from over the weekend. You should go check that out. But yeah, it looked like Justin Thomas had it. At one point, he was 12 under. Hovland was 9 under. And then he just stumbled down the stretch. And there was a point on 18 where his tee shot was to the left in the rough. And I said to my dad, I don't think you should go to the green here, because if he's short of the green, he's going to end up in the bunker. The best move in this scenario is to go to the right, because kind of the fairway, the way it kind of rides up towards the green a little bit, I felt like if he aimed it to the right, he'd have an easy chip to be able to par the hole. And come to find out, Hovland ended up bogeying the last hole, and he could have, and they could have tied. They would have went to a playoff, but he didn't. He bogeyed there. He lost the stroke, and Hovland ended up winning it. But this is a guy that one of the bigger names, and those things are huge. When a big name wins the Valspar Championship, that is huge for Tracy West. That's huge for the Copperheads. We need as many of those big names to be able to come back. That tournament means so much to our community, and to have Justin Thomas, and to have Jordan Spieth, to have Xander Schauffele, to have, a guy like Viktor Hovland play in it and win, right? You would hope to think that he's going to just continuously come to this tournament and be able to just get more coverage and more more attention to that wonderful golf tournament in our area. Just really, really cool. I was so happy to be there with my family and just to see so many great people there. So Doug Wechter there, saw a couple of listeners out there. And I always tell you guys, if you ever see me out in public, don't be afraid to come up and say hello. There was 2 people that hit me up. Oh, I saw you on the 8th green. And you can always come up and say hello. Just be respectful, right? But yeah, come up and say hello. I have no problem at all. I really appreciate that. I appreciate the love and support. The only way like stuff like this continues to grow is if I have that love and support from the people here in the Tampa Bay area. So please come up. Tell me your name, because I hate when people say, "Hey, good job," and then they walk away. And I at the very least want to like say hi and be able to get your name, because that stuff is important too. So really, really good stuff. Not the only wins this weekend. How about our Tampa Bay Rowdies, man? A big win, Miami FC. 2 goals in that one. They needed 3 points. No more losses, no more draws. We needed 2 points, especially on the road. Really, really good win there. One more road game before they come home. We need to see them at home at Al Lang Stadium. It has been far too long since we've seen the Rowdies at Al Lang. But yeah, still no Leo Fernandez yet. I know Forrest Lesso didn't start either. They're still not firing on all cylinders quite yet, but I think to be able to get that win is huge there in the Eastern Conference, because that was their first. So I think that second game, if I'm not mistaken, was on the road. Let me check the standings real quick, because they played Tulsa in game 2. Yeah, they're a Western Conference team. You never know with those Midwest teams, right? The ones in the middle of the country. All right, so they tied the first one against Las Vegas, and then they lost 1-0 in Tulsa, and then their first home game against Miami, they won. So right now they're 1-2. Well, they lost. I thought they drew the first one. I guess I was wrong. A win and 2 losses. Why am I losing my mind here? I thought they drew the first game. That's right. They let up that late goal. Oh, God, I burned it out of my brain. All right, so they picked up the win. They're above the quote-unquote cut line now. Miami's 0-3 on the season. All right, 1-2, but we need those Rowdies. Let's see where they got. Next game is on the road in Charleston. We know how good of a team they can be. And then their first home game next Saturday, not this one coming up, but next Saturday against Loudoun United. Then they play against Louisville and then Birmingham. So 3 home games, at least 3 home games in a row. 3 home games in a row. So, yeah. Tampa Bay Rowdies, rowdiesoccer.com. Go get all of your information. We'll have another player on with us this week. But yeah, good stuff there. USF baseball wins the series there at Alabama Birmingham. UAB Blazers, after dropping the first game, they win the next 2. Brad Keylori with a couple of home runs. How good was that? I mean, 2 big flashes from the Tampa kid, Jesuit high product. Really good stuff. I really like what I've seen from Mitch Hannes and the Bulls. The girls, they win after dropping the first game as well. So they win that series. UT baseball, UT softball, USF lacrosse, tennis. There's just a lot of big things going on in the Tampa Bay area right now when it comes to the wins. We're going to shout out everybody and show them some love. Just a lot of really solid winning right now. Tampa Bay, Team Tampa Bay. And you keep seeing that Michael Kelly, especially for USF, puts out all of those tweets, lets everybody know, hey, this team won, this team won. Man, you're just going to have to continue putting out those tweets every single weekend. And Joey Knight just wrote a story on the Tampa Bay Times. Kobe Knox, Jaden Reed. Who else? CJ Brown. I saw Jamil Reynolds as well. It's going to be a completely different team next year when it comes to USF. And I'm not surprised by that. I'm not. And we know that they're going to go in a different direction. We know that they're going to go, when you look at a guy like Ben Fletcher, we appreciate what he was able to do, but they're going to start anew. They're going to start anew, and they're going to try to get a guy that can bring back some of that life to the USF men's basketball program as far as like the excitement on game day, what Amir Abdur-Rahim was able to do when he was here. Nobody can ever really do what Amir did, right? We miss him. We love him. I mean, you see the right here, I just it's going to be tough to fill those shoes. because you need a guy that's not just a basketball coach, but also a leader of young men and a guy that can really get the most out of everybody. It's not just the players, man. It's the staff. It's just that camaraderie, that everybody coming together, understanding a style of play and putting guys in a position to succeed, because the excitement, the USF Tampa Bay's home for hoops, like that was a real thing. That was something that I won't soon forget. And I just really hope that what we've seen when it comes to the women's basketball program with Coach Jose Fernandez, they're gearing up and they're excited for the 2025-2026 season. The men's basketball team, what they were able to do last year, the FAU game, I'll never forget that. I just really hope that we get that back. And I know right now with the transfer portal and everybody hitting the portal, it seems like the Bulls are going to be behind the eight ball a little bit if they don't have their head coach in place. But I'd rather Michael Kelly take his time and to be able to vet as many different coaches that he can, rather than just say, all right, well, the transfer portal is here and we just got to hire anybody. No, we don't want to do that. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'd be very surprised if he went with an assistant. I think he's going to go with a head coach at a different program. Tom Crean, is he that guy? We know that Rich Hollenberg brought that up. Maybe. Do they go after a guy, when you look at UAB, right? That's a big name that we've been hearing a lot recently with Andy Kennedy. Could he be that guy? Maybe. Yeah, I like the way that UAB has played the last couple of years. They are tough as nails. He was an assistant at South Alabama and UAB and Cincinnati. He was the interim head coach. He was the head coach for a while there at Ole Miss, and then now at UAB the last couple of seasons. So, they won the AAC tournament. This is a guy that's going to be, the last, let's see, UAB 22-7, 27-8, 29-10, 23-12, 24-12. And this is a guy that's had success in whether it was Conference USA or the American. I wouldn't hate that hire. I really wouldn't. If that's the guy, if that's the direction that USF wants to go in, I think that is one of those names where you look at it and go, all right, we're not messing around. And I wouldn't hate it if somebody had an idea of what Amir did, right? Let's say they bring in Andy Kennedy for the job. Andy Kennedy is going to be close enough to realize what Amir did for this place and respect it and kind of build on that, right? Like, I know that's kind of weird to say that, but I truly believe that he's like, could he be the perfect choice? Because he's not going to totally disregard it. He's going to respect it, and he's going to try to build on it. Because that's the one thing that Rich Hollenberg brought up when it came to Tom Crean, is he was mentioning about being a torchbearer. He was mentioning about kind of carrying it over to the next generation. Yeah, I'm on board with that. I'm on board with that. I think that could work. Do you need a kind of a breath of fresh air? Do you need somebody different? Yeah, you're going to get that. But I also think it's important to recognize the past, because there was some success there and there were seeds planted that I think can really flourish with the right guy at the helm. And if it's not Amir Abdur-Rahim, bring in another winner, and Andy Kennedy might be that guy. All right, let's finish up the show today talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning. Unfortunately, they took the L. That was a rough game to watch last night against Vegas. 3-0 after one. You look at this Lightning club, and the difference between their home and away records is just putrid, and it's awful. Is that a big deal? Is that a cause for concern? Some people might say no. I think it is. And here's the reason why. When you look at the difference between those records, and we know how good they are at Amalie Arena, but when you go on the road, your weaknesses are really amplified. And the things that you don't do well, there's going to be a bright old light shined on top of them. They're 24-8-2 at home. They're 16-17-3 now on the road. That is too large of a difference, and especially when you look at the two teams ahead of them. Florida on the road is 20-15-1. Toronto's 20-12-2. Even Washington, we look at the leaders in the Metro Division, they're 23-8-2 on the road. You have to be able to travel with your game. And that's something that the Bolts are able to do. And we can look back at the 2019-2020 season for the Lightning. They were 21-11-4 on the road. The 2021 season, they were 15-10-3 on the road. Now, you don't expect them to be, 20-5 on the road, but you expect them to be a couple of games over 500. You expect them to be able to play solid enough defense in front of their goaltender that they're able to take that game on the road and to be able to come out victorious. And there's been too many games as of late where you look at their mismanagement of the puck and you go, how do you expect to win like that? How do you expect to play your game in that fashion and think you're going to make another long postseason run? It's not just on the defensemen. It's on the forwards, how they manage the puck. You look at a game last night, Vasilevsky played his ass off. You could argue that he might have been the best player on the ice last night, and they still lost. This team has to maintain that focus wherever the game is played. Now, could they flip the switch possibly in the postseason? You could, but I feel like those bad habits will show themselves at the worst time if they continue to play like this. Now, they've been going 11-7 a lot, which helps them on the road because they get to kind of control the line change. You can't necessarily put your defense out against, let's say, a Kucherov, because one shift you might play with Gensel and Point. The next one you could play with Gergensons and Glendening. You don't know. But I think there is something to be said about the familiarity that this forward group has yet to maintain and establish since they acquired Yanni Gordon and Oliver Bjorkstrand. We have yet to see a consistent run of four lines with three forwards and six solid defensemen. You notice they didn't play as physical last night. You can fault a guy like Mitchell Chaffee all you want. I do think he has his shortcomings, but he does bring a physical aspect to the game that they didn't have against the Golden Knights last night. That has some big boys on there. But we need to see a solid 12. We need to get to a point where we know what these lines are looking like. Now, line one, Gensel, Point, Kucherov. We know that's where their bread is buttered. Line two, Cirelli, Hagel. And the reason why you went to go get this guy was for two reasons. To help on the power play and to play second line right wing, Oliver Bjorkstrand. It's still early, I guess, in his tenure with the Bolts, but I need to see more from Ollie. I do. We know it takes a while. We know it takes about 10 games for a player in the NHL to get accustomed to a new team when he gets traded. We saw that with Blake Coleman. We saw that with Barclay Goodrow. But we're at the point right now where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Tomorrow night against Pittsburgh will be the 10th game with Oliver Bjorkstrand in a Lightning uniform. He has 1 goal and 1 assist. He's got 2 points in 9 games, and that goal came in the first game against Buffalo. He is a -2, 3, -1, he's a -2. And he's got 4, 6, 8, 11, 12 shots. It's not enough. Not enough. He has that one assist that he had the other night against Utah was on the power play, which is good. He needs more. He needs more. And he's playing, 13, 15 minutes a night. Like, he's getting opportunities. But for Oliver Bjorkstrand, so far, it hasn't been enough. And you bring in Yanni Gord, and of course we love Yanni. But if you're really banking on 33-year-old Yanni Gord, who was a guy that he was on your third line. He was a PK guy. You're not really banking on Yanni to score. But even him, so far, 1, 2, 4, he's got 6 assists in those 9 games. 2, 3, 5, 6, 9, 11, 12, 13 shots more than Ollie. More of a contribution from Yanni Gord. He's got 6 assists in 9 games. I think you look at that and you go, okay, fine. Fine. But Oliver Bjorkstrand, he was brought here to put the puck in the back of the net. That's what you got to do. You're brought here to score goals, and you're not just going to be here this year. You're going to be here next year as well. You got to shoot the puck early and often. So Gensel, Point, Kudrov, Hagel, Cirelli, Bjorkstrand, Paul, Gonsalves, who I think has been playing better, and Gord. And then Gergensons, Glendening, and Chafee. There's your 12 forwards, okay? Your defensemen, Moser, Hedman, McDonough, Chernak, Radish, and Lilleberg. I'm going to go Lilleberg instead of Pergbix. Fine. Lefty, right. Keep it the entire way. Well, not the entire way because we know Moser's a lefty. But they're going to have to be able to roll these 4 lines, at least for a little bit. You got to build some semblance of familiarity. And if you're not going to do it with these 12 guys, then you need to get guys up here that are going to play and do it better. Sorry. Whether it's playoff time or not, you got to find the right combination. I think the right combination is there with the Lightning to make another long postseason run. I don't know if it's with these guys. I want to see Connor Geekie up here. I want to see Dylan Duke up here. I want to see Isaac Howard up here. Isaac Howard is a gamer. He's a gamer. And you're telling me that him playing 13 minutes a night and possibly putting the puck in the back of the net or put him on the second line with Cirelli and Hagel, like he's got to be up here. I feel like that is the dude that can spark this team. He is a guy that can inject some life and some energy in this team because you need more production from the bottom 6. You can't just bank on Gensel, Point, and Kucherov to do everything, and Cirelli and Hagel shorthanded opportunities. You need the bottom 6 guys to pop in and do stuff, and Isaac Howard can do that. You're not going to overwhelm the kid. And people say, oh, you're not going to bring him up because, you know, he's a top 6 forward. He's got to play top 6 minutes. Why? He doesn't have to come up and play in the top 6. He could play on the third line and play 13, 15 minutes a night. Do you want to overwhelm him? No, you want to ease him into it, but he's good enough to be – listen, he is good enough to play on that third line. No doubt about it. Put him there. You'll like to play Glendening and Gergensons. Maybe you get to a point where you bring Isaac Howard up and you play Howard, Paul, and Gonsalves, and then you put Yanni on that 4th line with Gergensons and Glendening. We've seen him play on the 4th line before. Think about what kind of injection of energy that would be. Keep your eyes and your ears open when it comes to the Lightning because I feel like they can get better within, you know, using some of the guys within the organization. And shout out to Pat Maroon retiring at the end of the season. I put this out on social media. A lot of people have seen it. And I just tweeted out, Tampa loves you, Pat Maroon. What a freaking career. It's got over 600 likes, 16,000 views. Wow, what a career. 3 Stanley Cups, winning 1 for St. Louis, his hometown team, and then coming here as adopted home, Tampa, because there's a really good chance that he's going to retire here. A lot of those guys are Palat, Maroon, Killorn, McDonough. And don't be surprised if you see Pat Maroon in the press box. Don't be surprised if you see him on FanDuel Sports Network or on the Lightning Radio Network. Like, he is a guy that he's got the gift of gab. He's smart. He's funny. He's just a great guy to be around altogether. Yeah, love it. Love it. I can't wait. But what a career. And it was great to see him to be able to talk to Darren Pang there and be able to just talk about the emotions of the game. They gave him the first star. Listen, there's certain things in sports where it makes sense. It makes sense. Just do it. Did you guys see, I forgot what game it was the other day, but there was a referee that called a timeout on the floor because there was a wet spot to get a guy in the game. To get a kid in the game that was the game was over. There was a minute left. The guy was checking into the game. I believe it was for the first time. And the referee was like, oh, wet spot. Oh, hold on, blah, blah, blah. And got him in the game. And there was people complaining about that. What's wrong with you? Sometimes you just do things because it's the right thing to do. Did Patrick Maroon deserve the first star the other night in that game between St. Louis and Chicago based on the play on the ice? No, but he was the first star of that game. Bet your sweet ass he was. Was there a wet spot on the floor? No, but there's certain things that you do just because it's the right thing to do. Just do it. This is not a sponsor from Nike, but I love it. I love it. All right. Today, what do we got going on tonight? Monday Night Raw. I think it's at 4 o'clock today, so you can tune into that pretty soon, if I'm not mistaken. Some really good stuff there. Keep an eye out. Maybe USF names a basketball coach today. We do not know. But yeah, we shall see. Follow me on all social media platforms at Recher, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Over 1,200 subscribers, guys. Let's keep it going. I'm trying to get up to 2,000 to make my nephew proud. He was the guy that said, Uncle Jay, you got to get up to 1,000. So now I'm up to 1,000. And now every time I talk to him, what about 2,000? Are you up to 2,000 yet? Not yet, buddy. But I'm working on it. Coming up on the show tomorrow, we got our guy Xavier Scruggs going to join us at 12:30 to talk all things baseball because opening day is just a few days away. I cannot wait. Again, at JRetro, like and subscribe. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. Have a great Monday. Be kind to everybody else out there. Team Tampa Bay all day, every day. That's going to wrap it up for me. Lightning tomorrow against the Penguins, 7 o'clock puck drop. My show will be at Amalie Arena tomorrow, so hopefully you can join me then. At noon, it's the Jay Recher Podcast. I am gone. Peace out. Happy Monday, everybody.